Hey guys, E2A here and welcome back to another episode of the FIFA 19 Market Update series. It's been quite some time since the last episode. I've been away on holiday, taking a bit of a break from YouTube, and in that time there's been a lot of stuff happening on the market which we're going to be talking about. And I've also updated the squad we've got. You guys can see we've got a variety of new players, not just informs. There are literally every single type of special card in here. We've got the Meta Gold cards and also the icons too. So mixing up a little bit of a fresh start in terms of the players to look at so we can see a wider variety of those different fluctuations in price on the market. I'm also going to be doing a few collabs in this series as well with some other trading YouTubers, so stay tuned for that. If you guys do enjoy, leave a like, subscribe if you're new on here. Let's get straight into it with the starting 11. We're going to go through and look at all of these different types of cards. So first of all, we've got the Champions League cards. These are just those regular +1s for the overall rating and every single stat. Courtois is a good example. He's one of those really meta cards, and he's one of the few really meta cards whose Champions League card is the best version of them available. Now, these took quite a big hit recently because we had literally no supply of these cards for weeks on months, and we had the first kind of new little bit of supply with those Champions League SBCs last week. So we saw these cards drop down in price because that's naturally what happens with supply and demand. But since these cards, in some cases, are still in huge demand when they're meta players, they have recovered in price. But they're still fairly cheap. Like, there's been a lot of kind of hype around these cards too. A lot of people thought that we would have more SBCs today, given it's a Tuesday. The Champions League has returned, but in the end, that wasn't the case. So I'm not really too sure when we're next going to have SBCs giving these types of cards out, but they're fairly cheap right now. But bear in mind, they are very, very rare cards because we've had very limited supply of these throughout the course of FIFA 19 so far. Looking at another type of special card here, we've got the team of the group stage cards, which have dropped down a lot, as have the majority of cards on the game. That's the main thing you want to take from this video. Right now, we're in a massive market crash. I keep saying it seems like in every single one of these videos, I keep saying it's the biggest market crash of the year, and each time I do a video, the market just has got lower and lower compared to the previous video, and every single time it's basically been the biggest crash we've had. And right now there's been no crash anywhere near as big as this. You'll see with some players, I think Varane is a very good example of this. I haven't got him in the squad here, but Varane's gone from like 150k to being like 70 or 80k, which is insane. Ramos is down from like 220 to like 160. Those types of players have dropped down loads, but Alba, just as an example, is down a lot, as are many of these team of the group stage cards, because the team of the group stage is similar to the Champions League cards, don't have that much of a big boost. They're only like +1 or 2 in most stats, and a lot of these cards have now got better versions. We've also got the Ultimate Scream cards. These changed a little bit in price in some cases. Like, some of them went down, some of them went up, because we had the first new refresh of their ratings and stats fairly recently. We hadn't had it for months. We had a little bit of an update. EA said that they would be changing these in a month's time, I believe, and then a month after that they'll also change them, so in March and April. And in April is when we'll see the final change to their stats, and 2 of those stats will reach 99. So I've actually made some investments. I picked up Rafinha because I think if he gets 93 pace, he's going to be the go-to option at right back in the Bundesliga and could go up a lot in price. So basically, you've seen the cards that have had a positive change to their stats go up in price, and the ones that have had a negative change go down. So, for example, a card that used to have 93 pace that now has like 93 physical has dropped down because people wanted that card for the pace. But in some cases, they've gone up if their pace has gone up. For example, I think Caceres is one of those. He now has, I think he's got either 93 pace or he's got like 93 defending and physical, and that's caused him to go up in price. So those cards depend on their stats. Group stage cards, these have had massive fluctuations in price, and it all was down to how well their teams played in the first round of fixtures for the Champions League. Of course, some of these still have games to play. You'll have seen that if their team did remotely well, they'll have just rocketed up in price, and if they play badly, they'll have dropped. So you'll have seen Pulisic, for example, will have dropped down loads and loads because Dortmund lost 3-0, but Kimpembe's gone up lots from about 260k to being like nearly 400 because they beat United 2-0. So basically, just the teams that won, you'll have seen go up a lot. And the teams that lost, you'll have seen them drop down. So that's the fluctuation there. Ones to watch cards, a little bit of an interesting thing here. We obviously had the really big influx of these cards onto the market with the SBCs recently. We've had tradable and untradeable versions of those SBCs, and that's caused these cards to just plummet down, absolutely plummet all over the board. whether that be the really low end ones. Even though there are SBCs requiring them, there's just such a big supply of them on the market right now. They're still super cheap. There's around like the 12-13k mark. And then even the high-end ones, Ronaldo, Cancelo's a good example there. Like any of those high-end players, they've all dropped down loads. Cancelo was up at like 300k, and he's down very cheap right now. And I think these guys will rebound for sure because supply added into the game once these SPCs have finished. But we still have like 5 days of them, I think, so they could still go down even lower. So there's just going to be more and more of these cards getting packed, especially when we've got rewards and stuff, and people are going to get more players, which they'll then trade into those SPCs. I think that's when we'll see us hit rock bottom. Now moving up, we've got the first of two informs. This is the discard price inform, just here to represent all of those lower rated informs that only really have value for SPCs. They're really high right now. 81s, 82s, 83s, they're going for loads and loads of coins. Like an 82 rated inform like this, they're over 20k. I sold Inform Fraser yesterday, who's an 81 for like 35k. I was selling loads. I picked up about 50 Finnbogasons. I literally spent like a million coins on Finnbogason when he was 20k. Sold them all for like 35k today and yesterday, and made loads and loads of coins from that, which I then used on some icon SPCs. Those types of cards have gone up loads. The 84s are now like 35k, the 82s are like 20, 22k, the 81s are up a lot as well. Basically all the informs are up loads because a lot of people are completing icon SPCs and just a variety of different SPCs, many of which require inform cards. Team of the Year cards, we've seen them drop down, as with all of the high-end cards. Team of the Years have dropped down with this recent market crash, so nothing. But they will probably recover. They will probably recover, but it's just very hard to say what's going to happen because EA have just been doing stuff we wouldn't really expect. Like after Team of the Year, typically there's not much content, but this year we've had Future Stars, Headliners, so much. And talking of Future Stars, they're fairly rare. There aren't many of these on the market. Art is just an example here. He is one of the more popular cards. And they're kind of around the price they were at because they're still quite novelty cards and they're still super meta. They haven't plummeted in value, but they're relatively cheap. Like I think up by about 40 or 50k or so. Moving on to the headliners, we've got Sane. If these players have played well, if there's potential for an upgrade, then you'll have seen them rise in price. If they haven't really been performing amazingly, then they'll have either dropped or just kind of stayed around the same kind of price. So I think we might have seen the hype for maybe someone like Lala drop down a little bit. But then players who've played well, like Pogba, who's been amazing recently, you'll have seen those cards rise in price. So it's similar to the ones to watch cards, although obviously we haven't had the big influx of those cards onto the market. But generally, if the player's been on good form, they've risen. If they've got special cards, they've obviously risen. And if they maybe got injured or haven't played as much, you'll have seen them drop down. Someone like Skriniar, for example, he actually got an upgrade, and you'll have seen his card get an upgrade as well. So he will have, in turn, gone up in price. We've then got Man of the Matches, which are quite a new addition to the game. We didn't have these, I think, the last time I did a video in this series. And these are really rare cards because they're only available for a couple of days generally. I think 24 hours in some cases. So there isn't much supply of them on the market. Promise is one of the more exclusive and elite ones, and he's going for about 120k. And he's got a really nice card. You see these cards generally appear to be relatively cheap when they're in packs, but out of packs they always seem to rise. But then with the recent market crash, they've dropped down again. So I invested a lot in Gamero. I got him for like 40k, and he'd been like, yeah, he dropped down a lot, but now he's gone down to like 35. But I expect these cards will recover and will rebound because I think more so than any other factor, just how cool the card looks. It's probably the best card design in my opinion on the game, and they're really rare. There aren't many Man of the Match cards, so even though they have a minimal boost, like this is the equivalent of an inform basically, people seem really hyped on these cards and want to try them out, and they just seem quite exclusive. And I think it's because they're quite rare. They haven't been in packs for that long, and they're quite new cards to the game. So these cards always seem to have a lot of hype and rebound out of packs. And then looking at some high-end informs, we've got Mbappe as the example here. He's risen a little bit compared to what he was when he was initially in packs, and that's just because he is such an exclusive and elite card. You'll have seen this with a lot of the very high-end informs. They haven't dropped in price with this big market crash. You'll have seen some of the lower-end ones. Some of those players, maybe like Ben Yedder, for example, who's fairly popular, you'll have seen them drop down by like 5 or 10k. But with these really elite players and players who also have potential to get upgraded or have been upgraded, you'll have seen them rise. Mbappe is going to get an upgrade, which will mean this card will go to like a 90 or 91, and it will mean that it will obviously go up in price because of that. So they're the special cards covered. We've then got the meta gold cards, which is where we see a lot of change in price. I'm so glad I sold Ronaldo. I sold him for like I think it was 1.75 million, and now he is down at like 1.55 or something. He's down super, super low. These gold cards are a really good indicator of what's happening on the market. Ronaldo is very low. Messi is insanely low. Messi's like 550. Like, Messi's so cheap, honestly, so cheap. Bearing in mind that he's central, like, this is insanely cheap. So cheap for Messi. And Messi's really good this year as well. Apart from the stamina issue, he's good. So surprising how cheap he is. Cards just haven't shown any stop when it comes to their drop in price. Neymar's one who's taken an insane hit as well. Like, he was around 500k till not that long ago, and now he's just plummeted. He's plummeted. He's like 350. He's very cheap as well. De Gea, a new addition to the squad. He's down very low. Like, all these gold cards, it's basically the lowest they've been this year. So you'll see all of these cards, regardless of how good they are and how popular and how meta they are, it's pretty much the lowest they've been this year. And that can be said for pretty much all of these types of cards. People like De Bruyne, Varane, Ramos, Kante, Pogba, all those. We've got Aubameyang. This is his upgrade, the 88. The 87's down at like 70k. It's insanely cheap, but you're still looking at these cards being very expensive when they initially get released with the upgrades, because there's a lot of hype around them. But you'll see these cards drop down a lot. Like, this card is really expensive compared to the 87, because the 87 is like 70k and this is like 110k, and the upgrade in stats with the majority of the winter upgrade is so minimal. Like, it's like a +1 or 2 in 1 or 2 stats. I think his shooting's gone up by 1. His pace hasn't changed. Don't think his dribbling has. Like, you will see with a lot of the winter upgrades with their gold cards, they're initially quite hyped, but then they drop down because people realise there's very little difference between them in game. But a lot of these cards here, I mean, like, every single one's just super cheap. Sandro was like 50k not long ago. He's down like 35 to 40. And then the really low ones, you've got like Davinson Sanchez, Martial, Son, those type of meta players there who are less popular nowadays. Fabinho is another example. They're super low. They're just so low because people have more coins now. They're using, like, people who are still using Davinson Sanchez and now moving on and using people like Virgil van Dijk, for example. And then we're going to finish with the icons. We've got the Optimus Prime, Insane, Elite, Prime, whatever you want to call them, amazing icons. And they're so rare. There's, like, for the best ones, there's at best, not, and I don't mean at best, that's not a pun, with at most there's like 2 or 3 of them on the market. Generally these cards are extinct, or there's like 1 or 2 on the market and they're going for millions and millions of coins. It's because they're insanely rare cards. They're only available in packs for a week. They're the best cards in their possession. So of that, the prime icons have dropped because a lot of them now have better versions. Cruyff doesn't have a better version, so he's not dropped as much as others. But for example, the 93 best has now dropped down because he's got a 94. You'll have seen that with a lot of players. That any of the ones that have a better version, they've generally dropped, especially if they're in the same position. There are a few players where it's a little bit different because he's got a left wing, like Optimus Prime version, and the normal one's a central card. So with those ones there, less of a change, but with ones in the same position, then the Prime one and the better version, I don't really know what these ones are called, like icon moments or something. When they're in the same position, then the prime one has then dropped down in price. Looking at the mid-tier icons, he's just an example. Someone like Nedved, they're all really low. They're all really low. Pretty much the lowest they've been this year. Looking at the baby icons that are good, you've got people like Campbell, Ferdinand, Vieira, Hullet. They're also very low, the lowest they've been this year. And then if you want very low icons, look no further than the just bad, the really bad ones that no one uses. Someone like Deco, whose card is basically the same as like Manuel Lanzini, who you can get for cards that are only used in SBCs. They're so cheap. By far the cheapest they've been this year. It's because we've got baby icon SBCs that are giving these types of cards out. That's also why these baby icons are cheap. Any of the babies are really low because they're getting pack loads from the baby icon SBCs, albeit as untradables. But it means there's just more of those cards, not necessarily on the market, but in the game, so people who already have those cards are selling them, and there's just more of them. They're less elite, they're less common, or no, they're more common rather, they're less elite, less exclusive, and that means they drop down in price. And also it means that if you're looking to complete icon SBCs, you can now get cheaper ones from actually doing SBCs, so that's in turn caused these icons that are basically just SBC fodder to drop down significantly in price. So across the board, obviously the main thing to look out for is the big dip in price recently. Will the market recover? That is a big question, which might be in the title of this video. It will if we don't have more massive content coming. Now we shouldn't. Ones to watch was like where foreseeable future kind of ended in terms of big kind of market stuff up until FUT Birthday, which should come towards the end of March, and we'll be doing an investment video and trading guide on that fairly soon. But up until FUT Birthday, I don't think we're going to have much. But I mean, I don't know. There isn't you can do, like there aren't that many cards left in the database. We could have Champions League SBCs, but we're already on to the second round of fixtures and we didn't have any today, so I don't think we will have Champions League SBCs. I think we've got about a week, I think it's like 5-6 days until all of this winter upgrade market's going to keep dropping in that time and really bottom out at like Thursday morning early with rewards, and then after that rise a little bit, and then I think once all of this panic is over on the market, prices will then gradually recover again up until FUT Birthday and a couple of weeks before then, when the high market can get much lower. In a lot of cases, like with people like Messi, he's down at like 550 for a central card like that. Like cards like that can't really get that much lower. With a lot of these cards, so the icons too, like they can't get that much lower than what they're currently at. So I think they're just gonna end up rising up. But we will see like those SBC fodder type informs and cards like that, the icons. I think they're probably gonna drop down a little bit, especially the ones that have risen. So like discard price informs at like 20k now will drop down to be like 12, 13k. Once there are no more SS cards, which are in massive demand right now and very expensive, I think they'll also drop down. But anyway, that's going to be the end of the video. If you've got any questions, let me know down below and I'll try my best to answer them in the next episode of the series. If you guys enjoy, leave a like, subscribe if you're new on here, and I'll catch you later. Take care.